I consider myself a big Kevin Smith fan. He was one of the first directors whose work I really got into, and he's pretty much the reason I started listening to directors' commentaries on DVDs. So I've decided to do mini reviews of all 7 movies he's written and directed from 1994 through 2006 in 2 parts. Afterwards, I'll post a regular review of his most recent movie, Zack and Miri Make a Porno. So let's get started. Kevin Smith's first movie, Clerks, was released in 1994 and centers around 2 guys in their mid-20s who continue to work at their hometown convenience store as life passes them by.
My mother told me once that when I was 3 years old, my potty lid was closed. And instead of me lifting it, I shit my pants.
Lovely story.
The point is, I'm not the type of person who'll disrupt things just so I can shit comfortably.
Though this movie was made for under 30 grand, it worked out so well because the characters were amazingly well written, and even though Judd Apatow has recently taken the premise of adults being unable to grow up and turned it into a really big cliche, Smith throws some pretty good insight into the mix.
Oh yeah, and all holes filled with hard cotton. Yep.
Yeah, the movie's vulgar, but who really cares? It's funny, and I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
Who are you to make assessments? Hey, I'll assess all I want, pal.
And it wasn't just me who liked it. The movie did so well for such a low-budget film that Smith made deals with Miramax, and the movie spawned into a comic book series, a short-lived cartoon series, and they even tried to turn it into a TV show with Jim Brewer, starring as the smart-ass clerk Randall Graves. But thank God the pilot was never picked up. Clerks also introduced the characters Jay and Silent Bob, played by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith respectively, who would continue to appear in almost all of Smith's subsequent movies.
Hells yes, whatever that means. Now it's time to head over to Atlantic, drink some beers, get ripped, and hopefully get laid.
So after the success of Clerks, Smith had planned to film Dogma, a script he had written even before writing Clerks. He even went as far as to claim that it was going to be his next film in the credits for Clerks. But I guess he must have changed his mind at some point, because instead he wrote the script for Universal, which became 1995's Mallrats, about 2 friends whose girlfriends break up with them, and then they go to the mall to get their minds off of it, but they end up running into the girlfriends there, and, well, I really don't feel like explaining the whole plot.
Where you going? Cherchez la femme.
But I find this movie very funny, even though, to be honest, the humor is pretty juvenile. Jason Lee, now famous for My Name is Earl, stars as a lovable smart-ass Brody, and even though it was one of Lee's first roles, he did an amazing job.
Would you like a chocolate-covered pretzel?
He has natural charisma, I guess. Mallrats also featured another appearance of Jay and Silent Bob, and Smith cast Ben Affleck, who was not well known at the time, for a small role.
Snoochie boochie noochies.
Even though I like this movie a lot, I can't in good conscience give this movie anything more than a 3 out of 5, because it's a dumb movie, and it flopped accordingly. Afterwards, Dogma was delayed yet again for another low-budget movie called Chasing Amy, which Smith wrote for his then-girlfriend Joey Lauren Adams, who had previously starred in Mallrats. The movie, which was released in 1997, is about a guy played by Ben Affleck who falls in love with a lesbian played by Adams. She develops feelings for him too, and there's a conflict.
Well, what's the point?
It's fun.
And you question my lifestyle.
Jason Lee stars as Affleck's friend, roommate, and co-worker, and he does another really amazing job.
You're used to the more traditional definition. You inside some girl you duped, jackhammering away, not noticing that bored look in her eyes.
Hey, I always notice that bored look in their eyes, alright?
The characters of Jay and Silent Bob also return for a brief but pivotal scene.
What? What did you say?
You're chasing Amy. What do you look so shocked for, man? Fat bastard does this all the time. He thinks just because he don't say anything, it'll have some huge impact when he does open his fucking
Jesus
mouth?
Christ, why don't you shut up?
The movie, with a pretty heavy theme of jealousy, has some pretty great insights and a good story even though it drags at times. It definitely has a completely different feel from anything Smith did before or has done since, and it ended up being a really good movie. I think this one deserves a 4 out of 5.
Nothing with the tea, you fucking tracer! Take the chocolate around your dead fucking body, you...
And I guess there are people who agree with me because it won several awards and got Miramax to trust Kevin Smith with a $10 million budget for his next movie, Dogma. So that's where I'll leave off with part 1. Make sure to check back for part 2.